We begin today with the story we've been kind of watching all week. There are two locations of a Mexican restaurant in Kansas City called El Toro Loco. And I described one of them as being very close to my house. It's maybe 3 or 4 blocks away. I can walk there. My wife, a couple days a week, worked part-time at a business right next door to it in the strip mall. Homeland Security investigations raided both locations 2 days ago at the same time, about 10:30, 10:45 in the morning. They closed the front door and the back door, and they began speaking with employees and people who were working there. By accounts, they took at least 11 employees away into custody. So many of them have been released already, and you're not hearing that. We know that 3 were released yesterday morning, but I have seen a report that as many as 7 or 8 have now been released, that these are simply illegal aliens that you can bring in for questioning because they're not citizens, that you have no intention of arresting. You're bringing them in as a witness. So Homeland Security investigations, which I have told you is not ICE, and everyone in Kansas City got this story wrong. They said ICE raided these restaurants. ICE did not raid these restaurants. They were not looking for rapists or murderers or pedophiles or drug dealers. They were not. They're looking for people. Homeland Security investigation. Generally, a lot of this is like white-collar crime. It's fraud. It's money laundering. It's, in this case, they have described this as a situation where they were looking for harboring illegal aliens or labor exploitation or perhaps connections to human smuggling. Not that the restaurant is the human smuggling ring, but the people who run the restaurant are affiliated with those people, and they bring some of these people to work there, and then maybe they're not paid any wages. We talked about this yesterday. So we now know this was about harboring illegal aliens, smuggling, or labor exploitation. So what does the Kansas City Star do within 24 hours? First of all the TV stations got it wrong. This was not ICE. It was Homeland Security Investigations. The I at the end of HSI stands for investigation. Okay? The E at the end of ICE stands for enforcement. Then the Star reports they try to tell you that investigations works for enforcement. No, that's not how it works. Investigations will find something, and then enforcement will go take care of it. That's how law works. The Kansas City Star has written one of these teary-eyed, way too long to read pieces about 3 different agencies that are concerned with immigrants in Kansas City, how they've come to the rescue, and they're going to have funds, and they're going to help these families, these people that were detained. They don't mention that most, if not all of these people have been released. They were detained only because they're illegal aliens, and they were detained mostly as witnesses. We want you to name names. What was your experience? What happened to you? Homeland Security raided those Mexican restaurants. Let me reframe this story for every freaking person in the media in Kansas City that is too lazy or stupid or your head is buried in the sand that you don't want to get it right. They were talking to what is perceived as victims. The victims were not going to sit there serving chips and salsa and give you the lowdown on what their story is. But if you cuff them and take them in because they're illegal, which you can do, and you ask them questions and they cooperate a little bit, you let them go. We're not interested right now. The Trump administration is not interested in gathering up illegal aliens that's all they've done, that are here working and maybe contributing. We're not at that point yet. We may get there, but we're not there. They're going after the criminals. It appears that the people they detained were not criminals, and they don't need these immigrant forces joining hands to do whatever for these people. Now, maybe they're scared. Maybe they're going to take their $1,000 Visa card and their flight home at this point and get the hell out of here now that they've been detained. Maybe they will. Maybe they've done something that law enforcement doesn't know about and they don't want them to find out. There could be any of those things. But the Kansas City Star is running this sad piece about these poor immigrants that are, being targeted, and this is so bad. Folks, if you're part of a harboring crime or human smuggling or labor exploitation, you are the victim. They're going after the people that run the restaurant, not the people that were working there. Why can't people in this city or anywhere report these stories accurately and give the truth of what is going on? If you wanted to completely repurpose the story at the Kansas City Star, you could say, oh, we hate ICE. We hate Kristi Noem. We hate Trump. But you know what? Homeland Security investigations, they have a heart. They pick these people up. They're helping them. They're hearing about their awful situation that they're in. Their problem is not Donald Trump, nor is it Homeland Security. Their problem is the people that got them here. These people were wronged in some very serious way that we don't know about. But they have said publicly, this investigation is about harboring, human smuggling, or labor exploitation. And any of those things, if you are working there and you're being harbored, okay, held against your will, if you were smuggled here against your will, or they're exploiting your labor, which means they're not paying you, or paying you by the law, they're not paying you, what else are you other than a victim? HSI was there to help these people to stop this from happening in this country. It's not all just murderers and rapists. There's crime, white-collar crime happening everywhere with businesses that are working with cartels or smugglers to bring people in and treat them like freaking slaves. You could completely rewrite this story. If somebody works and listens to this show from a TV station, go do this story. Go do this story. How many illegal aliens in Kansas City are working for no wages or indentured servant wages or not getting paid overtime and are here against their will? Because they were captured back home by the cartel for something that happened, and they were sent here and said, you will do what we tell you to do or we will kill somebody in your family. Go get that story. This crackdown isn't just for us American citizens. Do you know how many illegals are here in the absolute crappiest of circumstances that they don't want to be doing what they're doing? They don't want to be owing something to the cartels. They don't want to be afraid that a family member back home is going to be abducted somewhere. Does anybody in the media care about this? All you want to do is point out, oh, Donald Trump's people, here comes ICE. ICE was not there. And the Kansas City Star disingenuously again today in this epic piece, making you feel sorry for these poor people that it sounds like we're actually helping out and rescuing, for lack of a better term. They say that HSI works for ICE, and that is not true. If you go to HSA's site or if you go to ice.gov and read about HSI, it never says they work for ICE. It says they're an agency of Homeland Security, the investigative branch, not the enforcement branch. The enforcement branch is the one that goes and gets the bad guys, the really bad guys. They weren't looking for those guys at these Mexican restaurants. They were looking for victims of the white collar or bigger criminals up the food chain that maybe are running drugs, could be gambling. There's a lot of things that it could be. They got this story so wrong in Kansas City. They absolutely blew it. Do you know why they blew it? They have to double down on it now. They're so bad at what they do. Once they reported across the board that this was an ICE raid, which it never was. ICE was never there. Once they reported that, they had to double down on the whole damn thing. Oh, now we got to go find these people that are going to give money. And we've got this organization and that organization that help immigrants. Oh, and this lady was crying and we've got all this terrible stuff. And the burner was left on. The whole place could have burned down. It was an unsafe workplace. And they just went on and on and on and on and on. And they double down. And now they say HSI works for ICE. They do not work for ICE. You're wrong again. Retract your stories. Go write the proper story. If you went out with an open eye and open ears, and you asked and you put together the pieces of what they've said they were there to do, which is harboring, human smuggling, or labor exploitation, they were talking to victims. But they don't want you to know that story. This is no different than, the Maryland man abuses his wife or whatever and beats her up and has a court order to stay with her. They don't want to hear that. No. We're not going to do the story about the victim of this guy. They're not going to do any stories about the victim of the girl in Athens that went jogging, got slaughtered by the maniac that was here and had 27,000 charges on him previously and found his way to Athens, Georgia, where he could slaughter a woman. No, they don't want to talk about the victims. They don't want to talk about the real victims. They just want you to think that the illegal aliens that are here are the best people and the greatest thing, and we need them all here because, damn it, we're turning them into votes. And when we can get them all on board to vote and we can change the census and we can change the map in all these states, we're going to run this thing just like Canada. We're going to have a full-on, full control power over it. They do not want you to know the truth. It is embarrassing. I don't know what number of people that work in the Kansas City media, these younger reporters and stuff, ever went to journalism school or no. And I don't know what they're teaching in journalism school today. Hell, maybe this is what they're teaching. They're teaching just take one side of the story and go promote that side. But they found no truth in this story. In fact, they went out of their way to ignore the truth. And now the Kansas City Star is going out of its way to make up a new truth because they were caught that their first truth was wrong. They're not saying ICE raided anymore. They're saying Homeland Security Investigations raided the place. An agency under ICE. It is not. It does not belong to ICE. It's all Homeland Security. You have an investigative branch. You have an enforcement branch. They're separate. ICE was not there. They were not. ICE has bigger fish to fry than the employees at El Toro Loco. El Toro Loco employees are the ones that are being exploited, for God's sake. Could the local media not do a story on how much exploitation is taking place in our community? What's the number? 10,000? 20,000? Are there 50,000 illegal aliens in Kansas City right now that are in conditions that they do not want to be in, but they have to be in because if they quit doing what they're doing, someone in their family could be harmed? Does anybody want to talk about that? Because that's exactly what this was. And nobody else in the media wants to report the story that HSI was doing a damn good thing. Not just for the people that live in my neighborhood, because I don't know who comes to that restaurant to facilitate this stuff going on, but for the people working there who are clearly being exploited. My God, you're embarrassing. I hope you're all listening. I am so freaking embarrassed to be in this profession. My God, you're bad at what you do.